So I want to have a discussion about this market we're in right now, this bull market, this boom, whatever you want to call it. I want to talk about this market and sort of compare it to the last bull market boom we had in 2021 and make some comparisons, talk about the differences, similarities, because I still see a lot of people talking about how this market is exactly like how it was in 2021, how everything that happened in Sword and Shield is going to happen in Scarlet and Violet, because in Sword and Shield, some things got printed into the ground, prices crashed, all these things that happened in Sword and Shield, everything like that is going to carry over into Scarlet and Violet. A lot of that is being said, and that's what I want to talk about here today. And just just speculate, because you know I don't have like magical powers where I can go years into the future and know exactly what the outcome of this market is. I don't know anything. This is all speculation and talk. It's all discussion, and that's why I like these videos, because you guys can interact and and comment to each other and talk about what you think about this market and how it's going to play out. Because there's a lot of people that believe that this is going to turn out exactly like Sword and Shield, because apparently history repeats itself. But I want to talk about my thoughts about, I guess, the market back then versus now, and how it's different and how they're similar. Um, so just know everything I say here is just my opinion. I don't have any, magic powers. Like I said, I can't predict anything. It's just my opinions on the things I say here. So don't take what I say 100% as truth, because I think a lot of people do that with some of these YouTubers. Even the credible people, the people that have distribution, the people that have been in the card world, Pokemon for a long time. Some people take some people's opinions as fact, and I feel like some people really get that messed up, because some of these people that have YouTube channels and talk about certain things, and they can give their reasonings and stuff, what they say isn't 100% fact all the time. A lot of these people are just like me and you. We're just taking our guesses, and they may have better guesses than us because they've been around for a while. But a lot of people that are still comparing with this whole boom to Sword and Shield, for me, I feel like it's not the exact same. But I guess first I want to just talk about the main similarities. And the main similarities is obviously just the prices of everything going up, right? Just everything in Scarlet and Violet, even Sword and Shield, right? Everything going up at extreme rates and how expensive things are. That's how people are making this comparison to be the exact same as Sword and Shield, because just the prices are high for new releases, and it was like that in Sword and Shield. And that's where people are saying this boom is the exact same, with just prices. And that's what people are, I guess, comparing. It's just prices are the exact same. Everything's skyrocketing, everything's super expensive at release. And that's why it's going to replicate Sword and Shield, because in Sword and Shield, when it was like that, later Pokemon printed everything to the ground or whatever, and demand fell off, and people are saying that's going to happen in Scarlet and Violet. So I guess that's the similarity, right? That's pretty much the only thing, I guess, just prices being super high. Scalpers, I guess you could say that too. I've seen recently there's been some more YouTubers that aren't really Pokemon focused actually get into Pokemon. So yeah, I guess those are the similarities and reasons why people believe this is an exact replica of Sword and Shield. But I think a little bit differently. I feel like it's not the exact same. Now, like I said, I'm not saying that what I'm saying is right, but it's just my opinion. I feel like this market is not the same. It didn't come the same way as Sword and Shield did with the whole boom thing. And I guess that's what I wanted to give my opinions on here in this video. So the first thing I want to talk about is like vintage stuff. Okay, so back in 2021 during that whole boom, a lot of streamers, a lot of these YouTubers that weren't really into Pokemon, they got into Pokemon and opened up a ton of these vintage boxes. Are we seeing that right now? I think recently this streamer, I think it was XQC or something, that opened up some vintage packs or something. I think he did. I don't know if anyone else is doing it, but it's definitely not like that, I guess, to that extent it was in Sword and Shield, where many streamers were opening up old vintage Pokemon boxes. It's not really like that right now, and I think that speaks something. Because back then, I feel like it was sort of obvious that we were in this sort of bull market that was going to end pretty soon. It was sort of a bubble, you could say, back then. Just how many people that weren't into Pokemon previously were just going into it, buying a bunch of vintage stuff. That was sort of obvious in my opinion. But this market isn't like that. Vintage boxes and all these sorts of things, social media, it's not really focused around vintage stuff. It's mainly the modern stuff. So I do feel like that is one big key difference that some people aren't seeing, is that the bull market back then was like everything went up, right? Modern, vintage, everything. But this is mainly just modern stuff. You know what I'm saying? So I do feel like that's one big difference that some people don't talk about, is it's like not everything you could say is going up in terms of just overall. It's mainly the modern stuff. And that's just one point. I guess the second point I want to talk about here is reprints. Now, things can change. But as of right now, in Scarlet and Violet, we have not seen any huge reprints. The only reprint I can think of that did anything, I guess, major to prices was Scarlet and Violet base. And it wasn't even major. I think they were like $105, and then they got reprinted, and then they went all the way to $80. Like, that's the only thing I can think of that really did, like, a reprint did anything to the prices. Because other than that, what reprint has come here in Scarlet and Violet that has done anything to the prices? Has there been any huge reprints? Has there been anything that speaks that, yeah, this is going to be the exact same as Sword and Shield where things got printed into the ground? So far, there's been nothing. And I'm one of those people, that has to kind of see it to believe it, because everybody's just speculating that everything's going to get printed into the ground and stuff. I'm going to have to see it to believe it, because if you really think about it, at least in recent history, we've only had that one time where things got printed into the ground because of the boom, right? And we only have that one data point to go off of, 2021, because back, before that, I mean, I can't think of it being like in that situation where there's a bull market and then Pokemon decided to print in the ground. I don't think it was really like that. I think 2021 was really the first time that really happened. So people are basing everything off of that. But I mean, so far, I don't see any indication of Pokemon doing that with this era, at least right now. I know we've just recently gotten into this sort of bull market or whatever, but still, I feel like Pokemon was getting some traction like 6 months ago, and that's when things started to turn around. Like, I feel like ever since Twilight Masquerade came around, I feel like that's when things started to change. Because even since then, I feel like Pokemon maybe would have started seeing that prices were, everything was sort of starting to move up like around 6 months ago slowly, and then now obviously went crazy. I feel like things would have gotten reprinted more than they were getting reprinted if Pokemon was really doing the exact same thing, printing everything into the ground. Because you see all these different sets I'm going to show you here. Why are some of these got reprinted in the ground? Why are some of these still very expensive? Why hasn't Pokemon done anything? So, Scarlet and Violet base is just an example I want to give here with, product getting printed, not really into the ground, but there wasn't that much demand. It's a base set. It went to $80. Now it's at $189. So this is one reprint that did happen, but it was early on in Scarlet and Violet when nothing was really popular. And the next thing I want to talk about is just a couple of reprints that did happen not too long ago, like a few months ago. Paldea Evolved booster boxes and Obsidian Flames booster boxes. The reprint was so minuscule, it did pretty much absolutely nothing. I remember these went from 140 to 130, then jumped back to 140 in a few days because it was minuscule. Like, if Pokemon was really going to, reprint stuff into the ground, why did they do such a small reprint? Why didn't they reprint this into the ground? Why? Because, back then in Sword and Shield, Chilling Reign, Fusion Strike, Lost Origin, Silver Tempest, they got reprinted pretty heavily when they weren't extremely expensive. Why did Pokemon not do that? Why did they make it so small? Why did they make the reprint tiny and do nothing? Something to think about. Next here, 151. Now, I know 151 out the gate wasn't crazy. I remember it. It wasn't crazy at all. You could find stuff under MSRP. It wasn't that hard to find, 151 at retail. Now, one thing about, 151 that I like to compare to is Prismatic Evolutions, because, everybody talks about Prismatic Evolutions getting printed into the ground, right? Why is nobody talking about 151? Because remember, 151, it can still get reprinted, right? I mean, we've gotten restocks from places, and I guess GameStop recently got some booster bundles or whatever. Why does nobody talk about 151 having a possibility of getting reprinted into the ground? Why is it just Prismatic? Because 151 is very expensive. This is only, a year and a half old. Elite Trainer boxes are $200. That's absurd. That's super expensive. Why is Pokemon not printing 151 into the ground? Please tell me. Because think about it this way too. 151 got a lot of people back into this hobby, right? A lot of people came back into it because of the set. Obviously, like I said at release, it wasn't that crazy, but over time it did get a lot of traction, and that's why we're at where we're at now. And you can see the growth is actually pretty steady. There was no insane drops and stuff. Why? Because there's no insane reprints. And, prices really just started to climb like 6 months ago. You can see here, like, this is when a lot of the growth really did happen, because you can see the first, I guess back half of, I guess the year of this was, printed. This is around like the year mark. it didn't get too crazy, right? It wasn't too expensive. It's just in the past 6 months things have gotten expensive. But I feel like during this time, right, that things were going up crazy. Because look at this growth, right? I feel like if anything, Pokemon could have had time here to reprint 151 during this period, seeing that, oh, the secondary market is going crazy. Let's start printing it and, having all the supplies so we can, calm down the secondary market. Why hasn't that happened? Yeah, we have Blooming Waters collection boxes and stuff, but where are the reprints at? Why is Pokemon not reprinting 151? Please tell me that. Because 151, like I said, still new. It's extremely expensive. Why is Pokemon not doing that? And that kind of gets to my point with Prismatic. It's like, yes, they will reprint Prismatic, sure. But are they going to reprint it into the ground? Where's the evidence in this era? Everybody talks about Shining Fates and all the dumb comparisons with Sword and Shield. Give me a relevant example in Scarlet and Violet of reprinting into the ground. 151, I feel like it has had enough time. It's had the age. Pokemon at this point, I feel like could have done it. They could have reprinted this in the ground, and they still can. Where is it at? That's what I have to say. And 151 is a pretty good comparison to Prismatic in terms of popularity with sets, where, if you want to say, Prismatic's going to get reprinted into the ground because it's popular, it's super expensive, look at 151 and tell me why that hasn't gotten reprinted. Another example, Paldean Fates. Now, this one isn't as crazy, but it's still pretty expensive. Paldean Fates, it's over $100 in Elite Trainer box, and these were so cheap for so long. Like, look at this. I don't think a lot of people remember, but Paldean Fates, when it came out, it was not popular. The most expensive card was like $100. Look at this growth. Obviously, it's a little bit different than, I guess, 151, how expensive 151 is now compared to Paldean Fates. But Paldean Fates, it's still pretty expensive for what it is. Is this going to get reprinted in the ground? Is it? I feel like, the comparisons with reprinting the ground with Sword and Shield is very different. Because, a lot of those sets in Sword and Shield weren't as good, as the sets are now. Like Shining Fates. I know the Charizard was popular, but if you look at everything else, it was very different. The value in the set wasn't as crazy as, the value in the sets are now. So all these, talks and comparisons about reprints and printing it into the ground, tell me where it's at in Scarlet and Violet. Why is 151 Elite Trainer box is $200? Why is Paldean Fates? Why is it over $100? Where are the reprints at? And then lastly, Surging Sparks. Well, the reason why I have this up here is because it's supposed to be getting reprinted. It's confirmed. Whenever it's going to be coming out probably next month here, sometime. I think this will be a big indicator of how Pokemon decides to take on this market with reprints, because Surging Sparks is like the first set that really showed signs of a bull market, and we're entering it, right? Surging Sparks booster boxes were MSRP before being released, and now they're reprinting it pretty early. They skipped a lot of sets to get reprinted for Surging Sparks, so I think this will be a huge indicator of maybe how Prismatic will be and how other reprints are going to be for these sets coming in the future. If this reprint is small, which honestly, I don't see how this reprint could be huge, because the set's only 4 months old. So if you think about the amount of time Pokemon would have to reprint a huge amount, I don't think they would have enough time. But I feel like this will really show something. If there's a huge amount of supply, a huge reprint, that could mean signs of maybe this is just like Sword and Shield. Maybe this bull market is the exact same. Maybe this whole market is a bubble. Maybe it is. But if the suit follows with Scarlet and Violet so far, where reprints have been pretty minuscule and really have done nothing to prices, I feel like this bull market and this thing we're in right now, it could be very different than Sword and Shield. So I guess that's all I want to talk about. This whole market being compared to how it was, in 2021. There are some, similarities. Scalping, prices going crazy, at release, everything, just you can't find anything, supply issues. Those are the similarities. But I see a lot of differences that people don't talk about. People just see on paper prices are super inflated. Prices are just, going crazy before sets are being released. But you take in the other things that are happening, how this market came to be. I guess I even forgot this point. The TCG Pocket app, a lot of this demand is, organic. I feel like a lot of this isn't just because of what was happening in the world back then in 2021 with the whole virus thing. There's no virus this time. It's just Pokemon, right? And I guess it's a big point I forgot to mention. So hopefully, you guys watch all the way to the end of this video because I forgot to even mention that. But comment down below. This market is different if you watch all the way to this point. Because I forgot to mention that. I guess I just got lost in my thoughts and talking about other things. But this demand isn't because of a virus. It's because of Pokemon. And I think Pokemon has done a really good job making the app, just I guess expanding their market, creating very good sets. And I think just all that combined is why we have what we're at now. Do I think this market will last forever? Obviously not. Good things come to an end. But will things absolutely crash? Will Pokemon print everything absolutely into the ground? We'll have to see. Nobody knows, right? It's all guessing. And anybody out there telling you that, oh yeah, this is the exact same thing. It's all gonna get reprinted in the ground. This is the exact same thing as Sword and Shield. They don't know anything. You're guessing. You don't know what Pokemon is gonna do. Have their plans changed? Maybe they don't want to print everything into the ground. Very possible. Nobody knows. We're all guessing here. But I just want to have a discussion about this market and how it's similar but I feel very different to the market in 2021 with that whole boom. So that's the end of this video. Hope you guys enjoyed. And like I said, comment down below. This market is different if you watch all the way to the end of this video, because I did forget to mention, or forgot to mention that very important point that I should have mentioned in the beginning of the video. But yeah, that's the end of the video. Hope you guys enjoyed. I'll see you in the next one.